on the prayer book, page 14. I bow down respectfully with my body, speech, and faithful mind to all Tathangatas in the 10 directions, those who have already reached the Tathangata state, those who are reaching it at present, and those Tathangata still to come. Through the power of Samanthabhada's prayer, may all Buddhas manifest vividly in my mind are positive to them, multiplying my body as many times as there are atoms of the earth. In each atom I visualize as many Buddhas as there are atoms. Surrounded by countless Bodhisattvas, thus all space is filled with Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. I praise to all Buddhas through manifesting, chanting, expressing the great ocean of their excellent qualities. To all the Buddhas I make offerings of virtues, pure flowers, flower garlands of music, ornamenting oils, manifesting and fragrant things. I make offerings to them of fine garments, perfume, and put forward high as Mount Meru, and arrange in the most beautiful way. I visualize the highest and most extensive offerings, and offer them with great faith to all the Buddhas. I prostrate to the Buddha and make offerings to them, following the deeds of the great Bodhisattva Samanthabhadas. I confess to you, Buddhas, whatever negative actions I have committed due to the power of anger, desire, and ignorance, I rejoice in the merit of all the Buddhas in the 10 directions of the great Bodhisattvas and the Pakchika Buddhas, those who have attained Aharaship, those who have entered the path of Aharaship, and all other beings. I recourse to all great protectors and Buddhas to turn the highest will of Dharma, as like displaying the darkness of beings in the 10 directions and leading them gradually to the enlightened state. I make recourse to those Buddhas intending to pass into impermanent nirvana, to live long for as many aeons as there are atoms of the earth, in order to benefit all beings. Whatever merit I have gathered through prostrations, offerings, confession, rejoicing, beseeching, and praying, for the sake of the enlightenment of all sentient beings, all these are dedicated.
Giving is only doing it, you don't know to chill out on the Lord, on the door, all about the Lord, the Shankar, my own danger. Get the layout sounds, Lord, the Lord, Baba Bella, to take a more of a motor, what you want to Humba. Got you the man on the only change of only the side you can have a warning around to go. Tabella Major Razo, the Sotom Rajala, Chutin, a Tome Bojo, Razo, something of the Dajina. Tamba Chujan, that's so at any pro number at Anam. The Dami Pony, Serifari, Kebon Pony, in Anti Kebon. Kata dami, chute dami ye, ni songo yori, te tamchi ina da ketang, ke gongo kono ta nam to mawa, te to mawa tamchi te ta ketang na, tiri ketang yopan jin do na, yopan jin ta ta kowa de chug yori, 그리고 볼때 요번 zem바티 뭐 다가 마도 딱게 땅에더니 세마를 받아서 뛰는 바람이 10에 딱게 땅에 맞아 봐리 무슨 좀 매가요 와리 무슨 좀 매대요 와리 가다가 다지나 운에다 난볼 옆에 가다라서 좀 매요 와리 그 매바지를 요미 직장 마시리 요서는 저반에 지금 생각하면 늘 저기 데리고 보는 지나 데리는 코 같다 삽도 돌래 데리 뚱거려요. 또 동인 좀 하세. 데리 코 같다 데리 동인 좀 데리 뉴모벨 레서 하는데 당고 시도 저바세 다음에 봐 마시 데리 다니 이디네 때는 뉴모바치 뉴모벨 레서 레저와 뉴모벨 저바세 뉴모바치 때 뉴모바체 무보다 치말한데 드리제가 레서 레데 양도 싸고 레서 그 뉴모바체 톡도 손에 드리제가 박차를 따로 와를 좀 다시 봐. 단 드라마다 망보들이 저와를 잡다 중앙 최대 잡다 년반데 양이 어느 고와데 쳐다 땅사바데 때니 온데 요반즈 뚱을 때는 다 차도 딜이 타로까지 다통 매바시 드니 매반드면 드니 참지 돈이를 방문 매바드 하고서 때리 고아도 차고 요래 대 코라더니 데르더니 다 요되는 거가 대 무고인데 통들이 저만다 왜지 무고도 치마 요 pom먹게 통되네요 자리 쪽이나 기대나 요거 말이다 무고요 말이다 그래서 출발이 삼에서 하고 대하고 요래 될 때는 다다양 피박가리 요래들 될 때에 유모가 되나 내가 까놓고 요래 신호 나진이 맞아 봐들라 유모가 집어서 출발해야지 지금은 유모 코로나랑 인고 동반이 되거든 그래서다 내가 그 대화야 그래서다 그랬더니 내가 그 대화야 동일랑도 쳐서 봐 유모랑도 쳐서 봐 자꾸 요래 다투고 대왕 되게 레면서 알았더니 내가 소리다 가리 자꾸 요리 또 톱스가서 상계더니 저런 좋았는지 말이지 얘는 시기시럽게 되더니 예발이 체험한 거랬더니 가리 자꾸 요리 때문에 그 요번 진도는 진지다 요도 요지 말이 내가 딱 나와야 요리 가지고 돈이 양하고 우리 제발 나와야 요리 대강 내준게 맛이 좋은 거 요리 늘 힘들지 아주 해봐들라 딱히 돈들을 하자 기체 모여게 드린다고 쏘고요 대권이라고 그랬지.
So this morning, Madame friends, we talked a bit about the analytical meditation, and we said that there is two types of selflessness, the selflessness of the person and the selflessness of phenomena. And so we have said that the analytical meditation especially is suited for those who have a lot of thoughts and many doubts in their mind. And so for them it is good to analyze and examine all those points that we have mentioned. So it is because, and primarily because we are grasping at an existence, that we are believing that things really exist. And this grasping at an existence is what creates samsara. So therefore we analyze, do things actually exist? And so that is resolved through, here for example, through logical reasoning, so logic. And so through following the reasoning, one comes to the point that there is nothing that truly exists that can be actually found. For example, the person, the self of the self has no, this self in the mind of a person has no color and no shape. It is nowhere to be found. So that belief in an existence is something that we fabricate in our mind. And holding that to be true, that is what creates samsara. This continuous grasping to existence is what perpetually deepens samsara. And the fault of that is that it creates a lot of suffering. And because due to this grasping at reality, many afflictions arise, and then we engage in action, we accumulate karma. So first, actually, there is the obscuration to omniscience. We do not recognize that there is no self in the mind. And then due to that obscuration, we perceive a duality of self and other. And then due to that, we give rise to afflictions. So that is the obscuration of afflictions. And then we hold these afflictions to be true and valid, and therefore we accumulate karma. We engage in action over and over again. So the afflictions really are the one who accumulate the karma, and then accumulating karma, we form habitual imprints in the mind, and then these lead to the great variety of appearances in the 6 realms of samsara. There are sentient beings, some are as large as a mountain and others as small as a drop of water, and they all are together in samsara. So samsara becomes very deep and vast. And the fault of samsara, that which has created it, is that grasping at an existence. So that grasping is what we have to become liberated from. And in order to become liberated from this grasping, we first need to understand that things do not actually exist that way. So therefore, first we resolve the meaning of emptiness. We understand emptiness. And if we understand emptiness, then we can see that although things appear, for example, we can see objects with our eyes, they are only like an illusory play. They do not actually exist. So it is difficult, of course, to see things really like in a TV show or so, but we can at least understand that things, although they appear, are delusions and do not really exist that way. And so the benefit of knowing that is that when we understand things to be illusory, then we can also stop our afflicted thinking. So then we understand that we think that, first of all, self and others do not inherently exist. And therefore, my afflictions also are only a confused state of mind. And in reality, there are no afflictions. They are actually empty by nature. And so temporarily, therefore, we can create our own happiness by taking the afflictions onto the path. And ultimately, slowly, we attain enlightenment. And so we attain enlightenment gradually throughout several lifetimes. It will be difficult to melt the ice block in just one moment and then immediately attain enlightenment. So liberation is a slow process that goes throughout several lifetimes. And so first of all, we need to understand that what really causes samsara is this grasping at an existence. And we still have this grasping. So things really appear to us. We think that things really exist that way. And then there's some other people, however, who have a greater understanding of emptiness, but then they fall into the fault of nihilism, of denial. So when we investigate, really analyze the text here really very carefully, and then we really can get a very clear understanding. So it is important to analyze this very carefully.
Dini chuji dame tang dini kimbo te jersong yuan te se lo chawari dina da di te da kasa o jina da chuji dame jupolo te te machine 강이 하적 침보 체가 요래 강이 되나 다 chuji dame hi ba de 다리 대고 내는 송마 강이 당 느끼니 아 데라 소송을 나좀 배셈 송아리 디나미 느끼니네 다 약합 소소 약합이 이 말에 데라서와 들이 데려서 들 신들 대덕니 니 송 들이 되는 코치야 데려서와야지 데려지는 다다 답이 출했지네 출했다는 취지다 되는 출가 취리냐 네 코치 나대가 취지 네가 취지 강이 답이 출그랬지네 다 좀 탐망보지 송을 때나 고개로 버려서 뭐 사자바래지 때는 좀다 소소 요리 때는 좀다 내요는 놀러 가가 요러 가가 요리지 나도 시바가 때는 라면 받지 그래 로도 남전인도 타톡 신의 상통도 제바 산속 생각만요 다 찍이서 하고들이 데이터도 내가 개발 데이터가 좀 타도 버쳐지 서대 고요리 내가 좀 타도 봐라 고요리 때 샘부터는 이메가 하고는 들이 카가 좀 다쏘고는 동샘들은 강에 요만 가리 냠슬랑나 냠들은 다통 되어 적반에 가리 냠슬랑나 그 요리 배나 데이터를 차고 그래 뒤는 좀 봐도 요 산이는데 되는 뭐도 치만 신지나 다 좀 다나 그네 좀 타라티니 세동조요 가지고 좀 시도 빼야 버리지 빼는 거 손안 받고 무슨 나와도 빼싸쳐 버리지 다 서름마다 받이 다 잠다시 잡지도 말라다 적시절 다 잠다시야 들티 가리는 봐요 이는 무슨 서로 봐 저기는 고소 쪽발이 좀 남남 샘들이 맞대 또이 차은 거 요리 되는 추위도 샘지 말이지 가로 소지 샘 좋구나 사지게 미린 삼아 대식님 뭐 좋아하지 네가 때라 타을 남들이 드라마다 melodic chulung visualize. They are simply visualize. They don't have Jimata, which is the Chepa, on some humility, Gachi, Yomnatri, the Bachung, the Lulu child, the nobody happened. The little Dabalatri, to turn the bottom, around you bottom, chloak the Latin, to turn the no water, see my scenes. Don't take out your Namni. 배는 사자치 뭐 똑같이 보니 고민이나 다 똑같이 뭐 사자치 보니 남사는 동료를 이제 시작해요. 시에서 대다 문이잖니 책도 그 요리 옛날에 세번 내lok대 강사서 또 담마도 제바 또로 랑 제바 때 담마도 타톡 동아들이 좀 내lok대 봐도 야말 대다와 하방으로들이 사자치 또 사자치 보이지 이 잡차버리 좀 타통량이 중에 누가 내 밭에 있다고 저리 될 때는 최단 가다가 나한테 맞아 봐시 내가 남적까지 따뜻하다고 맞아서 들이 고아도 있잖아 들이 샘들 로로자 너는 샘게 인진 탈도 같아 들이 따따따 요금들이 당근지 샘게 내로 공들 세인진 담에 잡아 맞지 난 공사 공지 도 사면서 다 라운 거 요리 좋아하는 따사도 이 공사 공지 니 차들 타투도 공사 공지 니서 배배시 샘나 사동 이 종 사버라지 동바라지 사와지 타투는 거 이제 봐 탐제다 잡아 요빨만 봐 동바 몇 번만 더 살아. 제가 잡동선도 답변 rum이 좋은 거리. 대도 동고도 잘 들이지 송탑에 셋다 됐더니 대도 준도 로는 대도 좋다지. 들이 뭐 되게 되지를 너무 좋고 요래는 강내 제박감들이 좀 왔다고 하고서는 이 가리나들 같고 요래 도미를 같고 요래 내가 왔대도 핀바요래지.
So we already before talked about this section on the analytical meditation in Khenpo's book. We read that out loud before. And so just to clarify a few points, so it is really because we do not understand the selflessness of the outer phenomenon that we encounter so much difficulty. So this self or selflessness of phenomena here, it refers to the entire outer universe and all the sentient beings. So there is the outer object that is perceived by the inner grasping, the subjective mind. For example, we perceive this world, and then within that the mind also perceives then various countries, one's own country, and then different ethnic groups and so on, nationalities. And then within that, we divide it further and further happiness and suffering, everything appears in this dualistic way. And this dualistic perception of labeling things is what creates samsara. And so actually the Dharma is also a creation of the mind. So there is actually two types of Dharma. There is the worldly Dharma or the samsaric Dharma, and then there is the Nirvana Dharma or the holy Dharma that we practice. So both of them actually are created by the mind. For example, the Dharma that we practice, the religious Dharma, within the Buddha Dharma, for example, we create these labels of I am a Gelugpa or he's a Gelugpa and I am a Sakya practitioner. Then we label each of those lineages, and then each of those lineages has a different opinions and different ways of ascertaining the truth and so on. And however, if you really look closely at the inner meaning of those various teachings in the different lineages, they all actually are the same. They all begin with the four thoughts that turn the mind, and they lead up to shamatha and vipassana. They all practice bodhicitta as the basis. So if you understand that, and then we can really resolve our biased view. And so on the outer level, the great scholars are upholding their individual lineages through the various debates and conventions. Then, however, at the same time, while they do that, we have to understand that although they do so verbally, the mind is still non-dual. So verbally, they uphold on the outer level their lineage, but not within their mind. There is no division. So if you understand that this is just on the outer level, but on the inner level, ultimately, it all leads to the same result, no matter which practice path you follow. If you see it in this way, then practice becomes actually very easy. On the other hand, if we grasp and cling to our own lineage, for example, even in the Dharma, then often people, for example, create a lot of politics around the Dharma. And then, for example, they label thinking that they are good and the other ones not so. For example, we think we are Buddhists, so we are exalted, we are the best, and then the other ones not so. Or, for example, other people blame the refuge vow in return, so in response to that, and so on. So all of that outer labeling of holding the other to be bad, for example, thinking we are Buddhists and the others are bad, that creates a lot of discomfort, unhappiness within the mind. So we can see that the various tenets and views of the Dharma and so on are all created by the mind. And we must become liberated. Our mind must become liberated. So the Buddha actually said that ultimately it all comes from Buddha nature. It all is ultimately created by that. It arises from this. The various parts of the worldly system and the Dharma system and so on, all of that is created by that mind. And so although that is created, at the same time, if we understand that it all is like an illusion, if we do not hold it all to be so valid and true, if we see it more like a temporary illusion, then the mind will become more relaxed and there will be less grasping in the mind. And you will understand really the essence of what is taught. So those who grasp at any kind of view, like a philosophical view, are ordinary. When there's grasping, one is ordinary. And so that is the fault of clinging to the truth or the reality of anything at all, even if it's one's own lineage or religion. For example, we practice Mahamudra and Dzogchen. And some people say that Mahamudra and Dzogchen are worlds apart from each other. So maybe when you explain that in terms of words, you could actually make a case out of that. But then ultimately, it all talks about realizing the nature of the mind. There are slightly different approaches on the path, but ultimately, the final result, the nature of the mind, is always the same. There's only the nature of the mind and nothing else. So if we don't understand that, then we grasp at our own high view. We engage in a practice of Mahamudra, for example. But ultimately, these biased views will cause harm to our practice. And so, when it comes to the path, there are slight differences, but ultimately it has a single essence. So if you understand that essential point, then your mind will be more relaxed. And so now I'm coming to the placement, the resting meditation. So here, ultimately, what we must become free of is our dualistic grasping. And when we practice meditation, we free ourselves from this dualistic grasping. And also on the inner level, the dualistic grasping of, as we have heard in the questions before, the one who meditates and that we meditate on, or the seer and the seen. There seems to be a duality. So when we free ourselves of all these grasping to a duality, we realize non-dual primordial wisdom, having practiced as a result of meditation practice. For example, the nature of the mind is a union of clarity and emptiness. And so from a dualistic perspective, there seems to be a duality, a clarity and an emptiness. But in reality, through meditation, we realize that it is a singular union. The nature of clarity is empty, and the nature of emptiness is clarity. So ultimately, we become free of all such dualistic grasping. There is no grasping to any existence because everything is empty, and no grasping to a non-existence because everything is clear, the mind is clear. The example is like that of a lamp, a fire flame. It is clear but empty. And so if you understand that view, as it is explained here in the book, then you will really have a wish, be inspired to engage in practice. And then understanding the crucial point, you can still enjoy in the various pleasures of this world, but at the same time, and especially when you encounter difficulties, you will understand them to be illusions, not truly existing. And then finally, you will be able to overcome any difficulty. So that is the temporary benefit of meditation.
나와 senso 타죠. 근데 주탐이 생겨져요 바다. 이 생긴 탐지가 생다란 거 세대 제적이요 봐. 생기 뉴스 탐지 쭉 봐야 봐. 그리고 그거요. 대고 탐내 되니까 오 랑 생다다 저 로를 생 나오셔만 니자 감성 생기 생기 쭉 봐야 있잖아. 이 세부대로 마도고로 들이상 오 가와가 감성생기 고대년 됐다 자체 뭐죠 라고 샘죠 가을이 뭐 통지들이 느끼다고 망보서 상고요 말이 세부랑 내려 운에서 세부랑 파나 파나지 잡으려고 그래 샘나 파나지 세부랑 나도 담진간에 샘대에서 고로 샘나 파나지 차로 이 남그는 고대년한테 마송이 직접요 말이 동문이 생활을 하시되 너바 탐치 잘하면 자롱도 차들 너바긴 차롱라고 차들 너바의 역성들이 범바 착발하는 게 범바랑 동바다 세 동관님 제네 이 다들이 범바진 나가 동바도 세 동관은 제서 동바 가까이요 말이 범바는 그 동원이다 세 나가 동관이 제발매가 대도 너바에서 너바 차를 쳐 들인데다 제공다 조금나 사고 생도 받아를 쳐도 송거요래. 그 거는 건데니가 나와 로주는 거 답과 라이스가 거다 생각나서 보고 주도고 생각 주고도 놓고 장내 말이지. 대 라미를 저거지. 근데 마다 로아를 독대야 라미가 저 나디니 속을 쳤도 없이 세군내로 대하고 그래. 대하고 들이 단독으로 로테게 들이 다다란 게다 이제 로도 남아지는 정도된 다톡 사초람들은 말게들이 다톡 고민 주기자사 마토파도 뒤들람 또야요 와서 고아서 차이는 거요리 대사지 제대니 안됐다고 또 남은 것은 그러지
First, the benefit of the analytical meditation is that we can resolve that all appearances are the mind. So we understand that all phenomena of samsara and nirvana are created by the mind. And then we also understand that the mind of all sentient beings and my own mind have a single basis. It is a single mental continuum. So if you understand that, we know that we only appear in this distinct way momentarily, temporarily, but actually my mind and myself and the self-grasping of all the sentient beings in the three realms actually is the same. So it is all pervaded by the mind. And so somebody who doesn't really understand that will deny that and think that this makes no sense because samsara and nirvana and the three realms of samsara are so vast and so limitless. How can it all be just one's own mind? Because we can't even comprehend, even see all those appearances in samsara and nirvana, this entire universe. So how can it be my mind if I can't see it all? So this is a wrong way of thinking about it. The mind is like space. It pervades everything. And if you meditate, if you have habituated meditation somewhat, you see how the mind becomes like space. And then you understand that there's nothing in samsara and nirvana which would not fit in space. Anything can fit in space. So in this way, gradually you will become free of grasping. And the grasping is like a block of ice or, for example, a vase. For example, you have two vases that are empty, and then when you break those vases, then the emptiness of the vase and the outer emptiness of the space become one. There's actually no distinction between the outer and the inner emptiness. Actually, there has never been a distinction. We only we fabricated this distinction through the grasping, with the grasping in our own mind. But really, there was never a distinction. And when we become free of all grasping, it becomes just like this merging with space, this merging with emptiness. And so in order to become free of grasping, we practice this analytical and the resting meditation. And then at the same time, we can still partake or enjoy the various appearances in samsara and nirvana. There still are the countless, limitless pure lands of the Sambhogakaya deities and also the Dharmakaya. And then there also naturally exist the 6 realms of samsara created by self-grasping. So if you understand all this, as it is explained here in the book, then you will truly be inspired, you will want to become liberated. So this explains here how we gradually follow these stages. It begins with the 4 thoughts that turn the mind up until we attain the state of enlightenment, until we realize this kingdom state of the Dharmakaya. So if you understand the various steps that lead to this state of enlightenment, then you will also cultivate a wish to attain that, to engage in practice.
이제 고놈진에 같이 고마쳐 보여 대담식에 오 셀나 오다 가도 라메라 되네 초라 라메라 제로 대담식 연구에 같이 그다음에 남도 망보다 남도 유명해 반도 오지 대담식에 싸워 빼거네 대홍성을 사자지 뭐 어쩌거네 레는 땅고 조롱 초당자도 조롱 초대로 저거 밥쳐다기 그리고 그 청어들이 사크로도 그랬더니 다른 제롱 내가 그때다고 레타보고 하자 나도 망보 들사발 강에다 동해라 소관 고도부터 그들 나도 주적고 열에 대탐지가 가르치거든 생 토마다도 됐다 열에 되는 통크기 시바세들이 진에 되는 되게 된 통감이 그냥 말만 통왔다 토와래 그 공부 연지리 그 통구요래 근데 다 정말 능력 치고를 때 통구요래 오 까게 치고를 때 통구 이제 들이 제일 매봐 남도 유마치 봐 척할 똑똑 동거요 말이야 대비진 통로 가리 배를 강반에는 이마가 설포를 더처럼 강디요래 이마면이 찍다고 매봐 동말이 돼 있나 생구생로 때문에 이건 남도 차 탐지 통거요 지금 통기기 수리 통지가 남도 될 출발해 통기기 10바데 당에 가마 도봤다는 게 다시바데 10바데 쪼르도는 다 소소를 대식이 뭐도 남도 가지나 좀 해봐 촬영을 신기기 10바데 가지는 뜩 봐도요 말이야 수업의 공정이 신기기 10바데들이 참아 10바데 시랍10바데 찍어서 남치지 또 남발이 10바데 초바 대독 라소바들이 대독 초바 참아 하고 도마들 세트 넘버 10바데 딱 했다면 그 10바데 이제 10바데 지세매 봐 요바 차라 이렇게 공시바데 10바데야 돼 나도 같이 살아 때보다는 별들이 나 자랑나나데 다 뭐라만 보여로 말로 되고요 다지 뭐라들 기도 잘 맞게 간 놓아요 말 거기서 졸라 다 뒤들은 게 뭐라 호마치 된 뭐라지 남발 안 그러시고는 다지를 뭐라들 빼다지 당식을 그걸 빼지 니네 좀 되다 그래서 마디는 나도 좀 막강한 내가 마디는 파나도 뭐지 철저 반지 반지 맞지 루파테를 따는다 조건지 루파테 그때 나도 가르쳐 버리지 또 버리래 루파테를 권들이 대해서들이 권자 터는 거요리 다리 하던 나도 뭐 진짜 맞아 봤더라 루파 따졌다가 따서 말해 따지 뭐 루파테는 정리 되고 뒤뜨고 자동화 되네 되게 대마터나 들이 루파테 가디는 돼 나도 가르쳐 하고나 다들 그러니까 따와테리지 들이 이소로 들이를 봐라 양자로 따져잖아 이제도 하고 특별해지
And so you asked many questions before, and that was very good. Also to clarify the stages of meditation. So, for example, some have different experiences. Some people, for example, have various experiences of seeing like colors or light rays and have all kinds of like feelings and sensations. And then others have said, I see a lot of thoughts, I have an ongoing stream of thoughts in my mind. And so when we are first introduced to Mahamudra, it says in the beginning, the mind of a beginning practitioner who first starts out meditation is like a waterfall, the water flowing down fiercely from a mountain, from a steep mountain. So at that time we have not yet habituated much to the meditation, and there are many thoughts in our mind, and that creates a lot of difficulty. We also cannot stop those thoughts, and the thoughts are also very fierce, very powerful. And so then when we look at the mind, that is what we see. And so then for the first time seeing that, we recognize these are the thoughts that are arising in the mind since beginningless time. And now you begin to see. And so what you are really seeing is that awareness that sees all these thoughts arising. So now you're seeing what you have not seen before. So actually seeing all these countless, limitless thoughts in your mind in the beginning is actually a good quality of meditation. It is a beginning of seeing. So before you have not recognized that, and still there was an ongoing stream of thoughts, but you never actually looked at these thoughts. You never became truly aware, but they created a lot of suffering. For example, it is like a sun ray shining in the building. When a sun ray shines in the building, you can see many dust particles, countless dust particles in the sun ray. And if there is no sunshine, then it seems that the building is completely empty. There is no dust. And so it is similar to looking at the mind. When you first look at your mind, you see many coarse and subtle thoughts within the mind. And so the one who sees them recognizes the thoughts. And so first you recognize, when you look at the thought, that thought is a confusion. It comes and it goes. But then there is this underlying mind that sees those thoughts, which is always there. It never comes and goes. And so that ultimately is Buddha nature. The thoughts always arise, but then again they disappear. There's many thoughts that always arise, but there's only one awareness that recognizes them, and that always remains. So when you meditate, you must focus on this one awareness that is always there, and not focus on the thoughts, but you focus on the awareness. And so in the beginning, ordinarily, it is a rational consciousness that projects outward and discerns various objects, experiences, feelings of happiness and suffering, and so on. It is the consciousness that cognizes everything on the outer level. And then when you face inward and investigate the nature of this consciousness, then you see that there is this consciousness that is always there, but whatever thoughts arise. So then you let go of the thoughts and focus on that consciousness. For example, when you go out on a street and look at the cars, a busy street, and many cars drive by, you see that the cars drive by, you know that the cars drive by, but you do not grasp at them. So if you don't get involved in the individual cars and you just see the totality of cars passing by, then it does not affect you in any way. No matter how many cars drive by, it makes no difference. But if you begin to focus on the car, for example, if you want to figure out the license plate number of the car, and they drive by so fast, then you get tired very quickly. And so that is the fault of grasping. If you do not grasp, it does not actually harm you. It does not affect you in one or the other way, as long as you do not grasp. So that what you need to grasp at, what you need to hold on to, is the awareness that recognizes all these thoughts. You become aware of the one who observes the cars or the thoughts driving by. So that's the one to look at. So similarly, you do not pay attention to all the great variety of thoughts that arise, but you pay attention to the one who sees those thoughts. And in this way, you meditate. And so first there is an endless stream of thoughts arising, but if you train by only holding on, only observing, looking at the awareness that sees those thoughts, then eventually you will gain more stability. And then you recognize that this awareness is actually always there. There's an awareness that then recognizes all the thoughts, that is actually always there. And that is the actual view that we need to recognize. So in order to recognize this view, so once we have gained some stability, once we have recognized this view, then we can begin to examine it analytically. Then we can look at the nature of this awareness.
God dropped out there. Oh, Pena Yanni Tepa, Gurbuchi, the Hawan Sharona. Yeah, Manzis, doing change Bola so what Yuma Bachina, Manzis, yeah, Madin, Monia, Joy, what it God dropped out there. Zambo, Maduk, Niba, Magaso, not all Mama touch your 6 days or God dropped out you. Tang Shibadi, Tubu, Jin, not all Moshi chocolate. Tell Conne, Gongret, not to Mama Samchik.
So, although many thoughts arise in the mind, you should not have any hopes, any wish to be free of all those thoughts. You should not have the wish, may I see the thought-free mind. So that is a grasping. So you should be free of accepting and rejecting, and trying to create and trying to reject. For example, even if an object of devotion appears to you, for example, even if Guru Rinpoche appears to you, you should not grasp at it as being good. And even if something negative appears, like an evil spirit or an affliction, do not grasp at it as negative. They do not grasp at both good and bad appearances, but just continue to meditate. Do not invite the good and reject the bad. So all that must be done in meditation is to sustain the knowing awareness, and that recognizes the many thoughts that appear. So in this way, we need to meditate. So then, when we meditate, whatever we practice in the middle, beginning or end, whatever Dharma we practice, we always must sustain mindfulness continuously. And sustaining a continuum of mindfulness, that itself is meditation. That itself is awareness. So in our day-to-day activities, we must sustain love and compassion, and we must actually reject thoughts of anger and jealousy or any affliction that arises. But when it comes to meditation practice, then there should be no rejection. So in the 37 Bodhisattva practices, it talks about mindfulness being the weapon of mindfulness, being an antidote. For example, there is an antidote to each of the afflictions, also explained. For example, when anger arises, we should be patient, and so on. And so, depending on the circumstance, we remember the proper antidote. But so when mindfulness is sustained, then we have finally actually started meditation. So then we have established the basis of all meditation, of all practice. So when mindfulness is always sustained, then we have finally actually begun a true meditation practice. And so for the time being, mindfulness is not there all the time. Sometimes we are mindful, sometimes there are no thoughts in the mind, and we just abide in the natural state, which is like a mirror, and completely empty, and then we just stay in this nature, and then again thoughts arise, and then we lose this clarity. And so then when a difficulty arises, and you come back to this nature, this mirror-like nature, and then, for example, you see whatever arises, even if a thought arises, it is just like a reflection in the mirror. So it does not affect one. So then, even though a thought arises, you can think, oh, this is my mirror-like wisdom, and rejoice in that.
딩고를 딩이 대왕도 대왕고 가리지라 대왕고를 약짤 때는 동바시 직정매봐 대동제미 작요리 대동제미 딩고지 다티 생그랑시 대리스 오 생그랑시 코랑 그 대화레스 생 코랑 대화에 하고래 되게 하공인지 시바살고 요래 제가 대화 살와 동바서 대변간에 동방간에 살와기 소라 해봐 동방간에 살와 동방에 맞대 동싹 동남가다에서 들때지 따왕을 뛰는 페바레 대란다 진이가 말이니까네 오 다한테 따와야지 지미니스
So then those who have more habituation in meditation, when you meditate, you assume the physical posture, especially with the back straight. And if you just assume this posture and have some habituation in meditation practice, then all coarse thoughts will naturally dissolve, and then subtle thoughts might still arise at that time. And when there are no thoughts in the mind, you experience a state of a blissful state. And then when you look at the nature of that blissful experience, then it is emptiness. There's nothing there whatsoever. So this is how we understand the indivisibility of bliss and emptiness. And that itself is the nature of the mind. The blissful experience is the quality of the mind. It is the nature of the mind. And the one who knows that is the clear awareness. So Milarepa had said, first there is bliss, and within bliss you find emptiness, you realize emptiness. And then when you look at this emptiness, you find clarity. So this emptiness is like the space-like nature of the mind. And so this is how you gradually resolve the view. But when the view is resolved, you should also not grasp at it, thinking, oh, now and this is the view. So you should be free of all grasping.
탑시나 리체브 대화 요레스 대화 뭐지 동마 요레스 생그랑시게 대화레스 대로 사브 차지 yap레 동거 차지 염리 아니 싹동지 사와 yap로 동바 염소 싹동 센서동 수족의 하고들이 혼절 매바 대화데 가지 세분 내lok동을 가지 대토로 대디 요리 대를 제셔매바 대를 지금매바 제셔매바 드링문에 대로 공통들이 다다 처밤에 버는데 소님아 같더니 다다사마가 도지 창소 센터를 제시해 봤더니 니바히 하고 요래 대세 세페라티 사데와게 페라티 남통다고 대와 사통을 처발했더니 사와야로 동바이 드리세 누보고 베 드림에서 사와 오탄 도다디네 오 동바 람지사라 란지사베이 드림이라 란지 트디고레 대상의 드림이디에 트로코타와리 조앙아드 트로코스 동통토고요레 테레스
So we say the nature of the mind is clear and empty. And the nature of clarity is emptiness. It is naturally empty. And the example is a lamp, like a fire flame. For example, in the Samantabhadra prayer, there is this image of the deity Samantabhadra with a consort, a Yapyum. And many of the deities appear in this aspect of Yapyum, or consort aspect. And so this outer image of the union of the Yap and the Yum is an outer representation of bliss. And because we see the union of two partners that makes us understand the nature of bliss. And then the essence of this bliss is emptiness. And the nature of the mind is naturally blissful. So the aspect of clarity, that is the yap, the male, and the aspect of emptiness is the yum, the female. So what they represent together is the union of clarity and emptiness, which is the nature of the mind. And when you realize it, you attain an unchanging state of great bliss. And knowing that, you will always want to stay within that nature. And staying within that nature, it is beyond birth and death, beyond the rising and declining. When that is habituated, when you attain this realization in that state, you attain what is called in the Nyingma tradition the immortal Vidyadhara, or awareness holder. In the new tantric system, it is called Vajradhara, that represents the nature which is beyond birth and death. So the outer example is this image that reminds us of bliss. But then the inner meaning of it is that this bliss is empty, and together it represents the union of clarity and emptiness. So the yap is the clarity and the yum is the emptiness. The outer example, another outer example, for example, is a fire flame. It is clear, it is light, and also it is warm, but also it is empty, ungraspable. So the clarity is the natural, clear awareness of the mind that is naturally present, is a nature of the mind. And so also on the basis of the example of the fire flame, for example, we can understand that the 5 elements are by nature the nirmanakaya.
네, 다 가시겠다. 따와데 가지고 투나 다데 가잉어 투지대사 말에 상고요래. 가시고 사지케 잠이스로 초바사나들이 사지케 잠이스로 초사래. 아주 잠이스로 초마사라 다 통투지 말이지. 대답을 농자를 과 시지요래. 이런 초사고 요리데 따와데 다 가요리. 다따랑기 남시디 뭐니 타멜그 시바송 때문에 배서 말이 여기다 다다 남발 시바 니랑 내로랑 시나 그래 뭐 시바리 시제대랑 거다 남신 때리 니근 콘디니가 제그 요래 다다 남도 오시도 남도 오시기 시바 되게 서류든 남바시 때랑 거랑 거 오시나 다때는 저 탐치다잖아 되게 라지 님에와 다 하고 오래 배나 타만이 10에 좁은냐면인데 가보바게 돼 뭐지 주산 망보낭들 소용망보 나와래 낭내 같더니 동사집에 용디 당시 이거래 사족선바 사집에 용디 여사래 니만 말하래 반지하네 근데 말하래 봐 사자적 공업도 오 타만이 10에 좁은냐면인데 산지에 무섭지가 들린지 송 들린 말라리 발라들이 이전에 다 사자 정보랑 태솜도 다지 체결해 나그 세고 내로 네 산지에서 하고 태솜 주 끼리 말라리 배 살랍다 이 그런 거 뭐이럴 때는 태솜 주오면 시시제 내로 들리지 봐요 말이 타마그 시바 니만 내가랑리 다다 나도 메백깔라 사포 랑파터리 따질을 남상 그냥 납도 이게 똑똑으로 태송으로 쇼 접로 하면 마음에 럭잡아나지 차로 요래 롱메버 드림에다 송신에 그래라 그래서 내용 보고 롱메버 드림에다 되는 사람이 되게 요래 내에서 받았더니 이셔내를 유인해도 공부받다 되는 사축선의 유인해도 공부와 로도 남자를 유인해도 공부받 되게 당제 마고만 쪼는더니 다다 톱스카를 공자주 까먹어래 하고 요 말이 다른들이 저 공을 납사하고 있더라대 말이 얘한테 당해야 요 말이 다다다니 좀돼 다 되는 거처네 다 삼보 땅에 오 나는 나도 무슨 시반데 닦고 때문에 대체로 되거든요 몸이 저 법감이 대라 소리야 대 조랑 법감이 되게 락도르 때 만날 때 맞지 받잖아. 때 놀았다와니 요 말이. 요리 타다랑 요리 타다 납시들이 타제고 그래.
Some people know they wonder when will I finally recognize the nature of my mind, or they think that I will never recognize the nature of my mind. But then we should think of the Buddha. The Buddha actually is that we say that the Buddha has accumulated merit for 3 countless limitless aeons. And so then in some of the scriptures it says that unless we also accumulate merit for these 3 aeons, we will not be able to realize the nature of mind. So this is how it is said in some of the scriptures. But then, of course, it is true that we do need to accumulate merit, but then also we can understand that the nature of the mind is a nature that is actually there right now, is our nature. So it is the ordinary consciousness, just the mind that we have right now, that is always present. So Milarepa has referred to it in an ordinary sense now as the rational consciousness. But when we know the nature of this consciousness, that is the nature of the mind. That consciousness is what creates all of samsara and nirvana. When you recognize the nature, you realize the nature of the mind. Otherwise, the rational consciousness is just the ordinary mind that projects outward and perceives the various objects on the outer level, that knows all those things. It's our consciousness. And when you recognize its nature, when you become free of all grasping in the mind, then you understand the nature of the indivisibility of others and oneself. But it is just this ordinary mind. For example, Gampopa, before he met Milarepa, he had vast learning. And actually, it was said that he possessed the qualities of a bodhisattva on the 10th bhumi. But only later, when he met Milarepa, Milarepa introduced him to Mahamudra, the nature of the mind, and only then he cleared away all doubts about the nature of the mind. And he said, now I have recognized through the kindness of the Guru, who is the Buddha in human form, that the nature of my mind is just this ordinary consciousness. And so at this time, through relying on Milarepa, he cleared away all doubts about the nature of mind. He resolved that the nature of mind itself is the Buddha. So through the blessings of Milarepa and his own devotion, he was able to clear away doubts. But even before, there is this ordinary consciousness that was always there. It is just that normally we don't recognize that consciousness. So sometimes when we meditate, we become free of thoughts and the mind is very clear. And then again, thoughts arise and doubts about it arise. And we lose this clarity, and it is like the wind is blowing out the candlelight. So it is said shamatha, practicing shamatha and abiding still is like being a candle flame in a windless place, in a completely still place. So this is how the mind must train to abide when we practice shamatha. And so then gradually we habituate, we practice shamatha, we contemplate the 4 thoughts that turn the mind, we cultivate bodhicitta over the course of a very long time. So we cannot expect to meditate just for one day and immediately have a result if you have never meditated before. So it is really because we do not have habituation in practice that we always encounter difficulties. So it is not so easy. It requires a long-term practice. So we cannot think that today I'm meditating and now I will understand the nature of the mind right away. So it is not that easy too, but at the same time we should not get tired because we should start and think, today I will begin. I will begin to practice. And you begin by recognizing each and every thought that arises. And then actually it is the awareness that recognizes those thoughts that you need to recognize and that you need to sustain. So that's the only thing to be sustained, the awareness that recognizes the thoughts. And you do that in your meditation and throughout all activities. If you sustain this awareness in all activities, then you will be unmistaken in your conduct in terms of what to do and what not to do. So you should resolve that the nature of the mind really is the ordinary consciousness that is present right now. It is your present mind right now.
Meditation. So everybody ready? 30 minutes. 30 minutes break. Om Mani Padme Hum, 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 Om.
How many chants? I used to be right next to DMC, the center. And it's 2.5 hours to get here. I don't know what to do. But I remember.
You stay working now?
Yeah. And I don't have a car. I have a bicycle.
You don't have it?
I have a bicycle.
Oh. So here bicycle?
Sometimes. On the weekend I do.
Very tough.
But it just is long. It's long. You have to take it. So I wish it didn't go too far away.
You don't have daddy.
Right?
You don't have daddy yet?
I don't have enough money. Nice to go.
You DDSC, you have it, yeah?
No, I don't take it.
Somebody left their car keys on the counter. It's up here.
tani 다탕디 냠는 르반디나 tani 로마탐치 가사칼리 같이 쇼요래 이 양천이 고름 저거들이 가서 하고 듣고 요마 교신이 잠시 같이 다른 모요래더니 그 도와드린 양천이다 고름 저거들 매리들이 얼마에게도 변한 냠린데 강리되네 정말 사웅도 되고는 방법 사로 드니 사웅 첫땅 드니 사웅 답 드리디 기생계네 답촉드니 정말 로토 더 많이 받을 때 따버리 드니 뭐서 사주 생때 당보 네 로도진 고도 타쪽 사지 공방 맞아 냠슬이 당 른바들 산축 남들은 봐서 빼자는 요장 대진을 냠슬이 좀 고갑다 냠슬이 좀 른바고 고토고 요만에 망치게 늘 체크를 가지고 텔레티는 들이나 나는 김보랑 나가시 들이 고름적 냠슬이 당 고름적 들이때 받쳐 타는 하나 좋아들이 좋아 대들이 고소 나는 냠슬이 좋아 고름적 들이 하고도시 기본은 듣바리 대비자 자체는 나게 laptop 말이 좋아들이 내는 무슨 냠슬이 이런 데라고 그래요 디디들이 다 디냐리 고런 드지와리 주님 마치 저도 소신 나니 냠슬이들이 사자 이인으로 냠이 제고 갖고라는 고갑네 들이던 사제 코는 마치 코는 냠슬이들을 받아도 로트는 드닝은 고바작당들이 냠리람들은 마차 상황을 했더니 얼마나 주아리 디데 주님 마치 다지 로레단이 파트를 좋아하더니 냠이 제도 바체를 인덱터 봐 대체 주 강에 셋봐 대체와리 대체 무슨 긴 가리 다 가사가 칼라산도 지볼렌지 말이더니 약합도 망게 추고거니들이 강에 타지 봐 출때 망조당들이와 강타봐 대체 록니라는 sem지도 왜 셋하고 무슨 리테리 애들은 기보 깔래 잡지 대주대 인지 소리저 백깔래 망고 나와리 그래서 해나 때다가 다냐면은 고가가 이렇게 줘봐 근데 따다다 체력을 되게 배답되어 요사리네 하고 오면 가봐 자식 말데 대주와리들이 마음을 되는 소속은 냐면 때문에 이제는 좋아하니라 막 교신 설 지나 좋고요리 대대 냐면이 유마생은 다른 로자라더니 이제 투바삼들이 연구요 말이 대지에더니 남상책 좋아지고를 녹아쳐 보지 대맞지 그때 로따다 대통령나도 요리 그 주변 냐면이제 그러면 가리 로요리 이런 바드 같이 버리 대다가 주도하는 톡을 약발이셔
There we have these the stages of the path, the stages of meditation, and then also like a curriculum that explains the stages of the path. And so actually many disciples go to many different places and receive many different teachings, but from all these different teachings it is difficult for them to really know what are the actual steps, step by step on the path. And also often their teacher is far away, so they cannot always ask questions about the practice. So they don't really know actually how to practice and in what order, what is really the order of steps to practice. So actually it is important to understand the order of steps. It is just like you need to know how to grow a crop, for example. From a seed. So in order to do that, you, for example, need to first plow the field, and then you plant the seed, and then you pour in water, you care for that seed until it grows into a crop. So it is just like that on the path to enlightenment. Step by step, we practice beginning with the 4 thoughts until attaining enlightenment. There is many steps on the path to enlightenment. And so we don't have really the opportunity to read all those scriptures, although that is explained in the scriptures, but it is all very extensive, and from a practical perspective, most of us don't really know how to really apply that path and which steps to follow in that path. Also, we have many activities, much work to do, so it is difficult to reconcile it all. And so, therefore, I requested Kempo to compile, kind of create such a curriculum that includes the stages of the path, that lays out those stages of the path. And then also it is online, so there's a forum for asking questions, so even if you're far away, you can ask questions and receive an answer. That is very convenient for one's own practice, because then you can stay and practice wherever you are. And so the curriculum is created on the basis of a vast understanding of the scriptures, which also I actually do not really have this vast understanding and learning of the scriptures. And so it is laid out in a way that is convenient for us to actually engage in practice. So it is very useful for actual practice. And so if you are in a different, wherever you are, even if you are in your home and can't go anywhere, if it's difficult for you to travel to other places, you can still follow this path in that way without having to go anywhere. For example, if you have like a week time or a month or however much time you have, you can take that time and do some practice and following these stages of the path according to the curriculum. So it is a complete path, and so and therefore, because that is important, he created that. And so since it is online, you can also ask questions, and in that way we can clear away all kinds of difficulties and doubts in the mind. And that is really our activity, because we are, for example, me, I'm traveling all over the place, and since I'm going everywhere, only eating the food of other people is not my only responsibility. I also have to actually care for them. So therefore, wherever I go, and whichever country and whatever people I meet, I must also help them clear away their difficulties and really fulfill their wishes. And so generally, we clear away suffering relying on two systems, the worldly system and the Dharma system. And so to clear away the suffering of beings is really our responsibility. And so Khenpo really worked really hard to create this stages of the path, also this booklet, and has been translated into English. And it would be very good if you would use it as a basis for your future practice. It is just like science, actually, very scientific. It is very convenient to practice. So I think this is probably how it is, because I also don't know how science does all that well. For example, I don't even know how to make a phone call myself. But I think it would be very good if you use this book as a basis for practice, and then on the basis of that ask questions to any spiritual teacher. And so because that is important also, because often we have we want to practice the Dharma, but then we do not actually feel so inspired, and so then because we're not so inspired to practice, we don't really see the flavor of the Dharma, then we cultivate doubts and wrong views and so on. And so that is why it is really important that we have a kind of a curriculum, sort of a path that is laid out to us. It's important that we have like a map where we see which are the stages of the path of Dharma practice. And so therefore, I would like you, my Dharma friends, to bear this in mind.
차상 고토고요 말이 제 지와들이 감리들이 리니담도 떼사고 고토고요 하장 가르쳐 모요래 그러니까 저한테는 배 가오요 되는 조건 단계요 말이 이 고저 저거 가라고요 말이 별로달로 아리동은 저 아직 랩송 네바지 강리 출了저한테는 상의 로제를 고과 인식 고갑을 하마 정지 다상 남들에게 돈을 용한 인식 저 강의전에 다 마친들 나차 정네 들이다 시작청 보지 배샤 제더니 다 민용도 성시 다 나차 마성시 들이 대다버리 강의 레스 들어디 강의는 들이 탑들이 다디 배샤 도성선 배샤의 강나로 빈강나로 요리 추주골로 삼오도나 평강 대거든이 생기 망보샥주 제로 요래 민주 제가 요래 편발로 이 민강제 민강제란 게 초조고 쏘는 거 저러고 진발로 요래 초발로 요래 배하 초라다와니 뭐 동시성 랑상신의 동해면 오 마음걸로 쏘는 거죠 디와는 제가 탐질들이 저바 포동도 봐 지방은 제가 톱톱아 초박은 제가 톱톱아 제가 동시에 람상 동해지 셔서 때리나 차요는 때레게 마시네. 근데 가시 라시작이 강이 되는 machine the Dungi, Matata, Zupon Mizo Tanata, the Dungi Taki Tavares and Mari Malang to later Pakcha, lady, Dadi Tori, Dadi Tori, Dadi Lemon, Malang to the doctor and young Danger. Dari Dungi, the children got a current on the gate start to go on my lure, was your tandem. Oh, Rashi Jalu, the Mita for me, Russian. Rashi Jalu, some Tokori, Peter, Pini Chimbori, then the ring Peter, Cachete Mato, then a trying to be Mambo Yori, Mambo so Tori, the Kari, Maggie, my Tambachuji on the Indi, giving it something on the Indi. I用的这样没呢，这张苹果的这人们，有些三斤没吃完就点他们就挂上这个，除了少的朋友你钱不交嘞，因为6年了，你甚至东西是他给他可以嘞，单位里你他的这里，或者他能抓么抓嘛，上这里或者抓这里，人家你这里的说呢，我给搞的些，你拉过来。
And so, also we've had a time to ask questions. It's also important that we can clear away our questions, the doubts in the mind, and really understand the meaning. Because if we don't ask questions, and also we don't understand the meaning, and often also if we answer a question and then we don't really understand the first time of having an answer, then we ask them a similar question again, and then finally we can understand the meaning, and also by answering the question, it becomes clear. The meaning becomes clear. Actually, I do like to receive questions, but also we don't have so much time always, so we don't always have an opportunity to answer all the questions due to the time constraints. For example, once in Arizona, there was a sick person who came for an audience. And the person said that I was waiting for this audience for 8 years, and now finally I had this opportunity. And actually, he booked a plane ticket from far away just to come for this audience. And so I asked, "So, what is your question? What is your difficulty?" And so he said that I've been ill for many years. I did several surgeries and I spent a lot of money on various medical treatments. So all my money actually went to the medical bills, and still I'm actually not better. I'm not better, I'm not cured. So what shall I do? And so first of all I said that thought, that things I have lost all my money to the medical bills, you should reconsider that. So where does the money actually go when you pay for your medical bills? It goes to the hospital. And so the hospital benefits from the money. And if it benefits from your money, then it can help more sentient beings. It can do more surgeries and more medical treatments on others. So actually, it is like a generosity or making an offering. So if you see it in that way, you're actually accumulating merit from having made an offering. And it does not go wasted. So if you understand the meaning, it will not be wasted. If you do not understand, then it will appear to you as though it would be wasted. Instead of thinking that it is just gone, think that actually that is a merit that will last throughout all future lifetimes. In the future, I will obtain the result of having practiced generosity or made offerings. So now the illness, regarding the illness, you should understand that the illness is due to karma. It is a karmic illness. And for example, there are some people who even commit suicide. And they do that in the belief, thinking that there's so much suffering in my life. If I separate from my body, if I destroy my body, I bring an end to my suffering. So that is really a very wrong belief, because we can see how it is wrong even by looking at our dreams. All our karmas and imprints are within the self, the idea of a self. And due to that, due to the presence of karmic imprints, we experience in our dreams, for example, the same experiences as during the day, happiness and suffering and so on. So when we take our own life, then actually instead of bringing an end to our suffering, we are actually increasing our suffering. It becomes even more intense. So this is not a way to separate from suffering. In this way, we only separate from our precious human body. So if you understand all that, the Dharma, then that can really prevent one, for example, from committing suicide. So that is why it is so beneficial. For example, through answering several questions, I was able to save the life of several people. And so that's not because I have many great qualities or much learning, but it's the quality of the Dharma, the quality of my teachers. So if a person without much qualities like myself can bring that benefit, then we should think about all the other teachers in all the different religions in the world. So basically, on the basis of the two systems, the worldly and the Dharma system, we can clear away the suffering of sentient beings. And so, and now we come back to answering the remaining questions that we have, and then we see how far we get. And if we finish and there's time left, then I can continue with the teachings. When the mind sees itself and all grasping stops for the first time, can it be that the body experiences deep exhaustion and tiredness, a feeling of extreme physical tiredness? Tambo sem dabe gabla, so sem tongbe gabla, teni zimba tama meba chabe gabla ra, zimba mebe gabla. Teni una sem ki ngobo nangla debe galara ti kapla teni supu ti pe kale khaba nangshin pe thang cheba nangshin tine chagarves pe kale mambo gyabe barwa supu ti pe thang cheba nangshin chagarves sem ngobo nangla debe kapla
thang cheba nang chakaban pe jibo de thang cheba nang de zoa de so gom zoa shok che so ni zambare zupo so je le sang
So actually, when you rest in the nature of the mind, as you described, you actually not feeling tired or exhausted, but actually you feel very, very happy, very joyful. So what happens in your case is that sometimes when you meditate, with too much tightness, too tense, so the feeling becomes too strong that it exhausts you. If you feel exhausted from that, so at that time it is therefore better to relax your body a bit more, but have a straight back, and just relax the state, relax the mind, and relax the body. So there should actually not be a feeling of tiredness or exhaustion.
랑거 루고 카나티니 탕체야요리 데르데 가리킨 퀴지딘 사와 가리킨 탕체 드니 제루메야 차케요리 데르 조고양 투디 루톱소와데 미 데라 소와 게세고레 데 공마레 조고 잘롱고 체바레 루톱고 체바레.
So when you feel tired, the reason why you feel tired or exhausted has to do with your physical disposition. That is, for example, issues with the winds or some kind of illness maybe. So due to some imbalance in the body, you feel tired. Or often also when we have to do a lot of things, many activities, either in the Dharma or the world, we feel also exhausted. And when we feel tired, we don't want to do them. So actually, when you feel like that, it is better if you relax your body a bit and, you rejuvenate your body and take some medicine and so on. But this kind of feeling does not come from meditation actually, but it has to do with your channels and winds, your physical disposition. After meditation, I usually feel very fresh. The feeling lasts, I think. Feeling lasts, no? The feeling feels like or something. Feels like the feeling after waking up, something like that. Feels like the feeling after waking up from a long, tired sleep. Is it normal to feel like that? Or am I being too much relaxed during meditation? Gom gyaptsadura. Gom gyaptsadu. Tening abe ta ni seba nangshinda choba gegedok. Be kam tangbora gore. Mari niko tsadura. Tening tangchige menda niko tsadu be kam tangbo. Be salbo, kam salbo. Sem salbo yoraba niko tsadu. Kensa? Korandi kom gyaptsadu dina choba gegedok. Be salboda nga kom gyaptsadu wa nga be niko banang niko tsadu shoka yalan be salbo yoraba tangchige mendo dinangshin chagare. Tene ti chikchena nga kom gyabe gabla nga hlolo di chejagedok niko banangshin hinsa marves kaisena kom gyaptsadu ni se banangshin choba gegedo. Tene tin gyön chitoe
gomjab tsari semsawo chagdore.
Redan niku 차반낭신 와 쇼크 야랑백갑.
우리 뒤에 보대 역시 gomjabtara gom ne sem부터만 내요나 배 sem사wo자 니 자원 뭐 거고 차인 거리 니뭐 거고 중요래. 때 gom자wo자 시다래. 이 공들이야 봐 내차 조지. 드니 루루지 드니 니 거고 탑마제는 드니 니 막고는 좋아라. 조금 좋아하는 그 요래 니 고고래 돼. 뭐 활동사고는 이 막고 자꾸 요래. 대생 내리다 생모 통하다래. 어저 바탕 살지.
So there's actually no fault in that. That's actually a very good sign of meditation practice, because when the mind really abides calmly, then the mind becomes very clear, and that clears away all sleepiness. So you feel refreshed and not sleepy. You feel very clear. So actually, the fault the fault that we fall into often is sleepiness. So actually, if you feel refreshed, it is a sign that you know how to meditate. So also, however, it is important to also be able to relax your body. This does not mean that you shouldn't sleep at all. So if you do not sleep at all, that would also not be good for your body. So if you can't sleep, on the other hand, then you should try various things to be able to sleep. So you definitely should sleep. But this feeling in general now, this feeling of being clear and so on, actually is a sign that you have seen the nature of the mind and have actually practiced meditation. So as a result of that, there's an experience of very clear awareness.
이 자원을 콕 마고 봐. 자, 타영만 제봐. 이 자원을 콕 마고 봐. 대는 공약수 대리 차고요. 대해서 다 내가 제고서 내가 제고 된 저거 말이. 니 대해서 콕 고래지.
So then, in the best case, if we really have habituated meditation, we come to a point where we have no more need to sleep, and we also don't feel tired. But in our case, this is not what we should do, because you have to work, and so since you have to work, you also have to sleep.
이 세마타도 공부대 뒤에터더니 니도 공부 제발매가 잘하래.
So if you're able to remember the meditation the very moment you wake up from sleeping, then it is just as though you would have meditated while you were sleeping. And during the first few minutes of the beginning meditation, I usually visualize the Hong word on my forehead and between my eyebrows. At that moment, I see in front of my eyes, and I feel my mind in very warm, bright colors. The warm color only appears for a few minutes. After that, I don't see any color in my mind or in front of my eyes anymore. All I feel is my mind or my body floating in an empty space. There is nothing around me, even if I'm sitting in a room with people or furniture around me. My mind is blank at this time. Is this normal? Am I practice in the right direction? Ta kom gyabe gabla, ta karma kom go so ne karma khashe chila. Tene thambongan di minsam la terbala Hong Kong use inara Hong Kong use. Tene ti gabla karma khashe chila. Tene sosu dun la mik tekata se yara telang sem telan drogo. Tene sem tela drobe gabla. Tene sem be katok domboda wala katok chawo bena katok chawo sana bena pache tingiri marbo li serbo dena katok dombola gedok
샘 차오로.
mare katok 여러 봐
카톡
marbo
카톡 마고.
katok marbo ya mare kanso kitila gedok dombo sana tangmo mangimba katok tangmo mangimba
네와 사와.
tinna mare
카톡 정보도.
Maringan inji lapseji yore. Di katuk drangmo bena ngumpo tang jangko katuk drangmo re lagedok. Teni serpo tang marpo katuk drombo re lagedok. Ta katuk drombo damen da yore. Bena serpo liti marpo tenzo mukpa tenzo drombo enzo ra.
Diwari.
Ta tin damen da thongedos. Ta di sem yimbara. Tini di karma kashi dege dok nga mikdunla ra. Tini di chela kato khan thongim mindok tene di kapla ti kato mebe kapla tene ngarang lusem nika namkha la proban nangshin choba gegido namkha tongba no tene tela khaya meba ra chagre pena tana lakhana la tena tini me dang chalak chama meba da choba gegidos tene ti kapla ngasem tongba tongkya re tene ti jigidues
된거 그 가래상으로 똑똑 마땅 가도 직장 매완하지 자기 몇건 통되나 통만 매완이 몇건 통되는 저반면으로 요래 그래서 좀나 동대 다 생각을 하더니 나 동대 sem남카는 봐 잡으나 이 메롱을 좀 이따고 자때 공약실에 왔다 나 동대래서 좀 낭랑 동바지 라세나기 참으로래 라sem을 샬라야 되니 랑보리 말이 직장 마산 받으더니 딱 제미 약속을 했지.
So there's no problem with that, but also no matter what appears, you should not investigate it. Don't think about it. So whether you see or not see any color, there should be no thought about that, about what it is, and so on. And so ultimately, the mind must become free of all kinds of grasping at seeing or not seeing anything. Then that mind is is like space and all pervasive. So how you can see it is like whatever appears is like a reflection appearing in a mirror. So it appears, it is appearance, but it is empty. So whatever appears, see it just like that. This is just an appearance which is empty. So the form might appear, but its essence is empty. And this is actually also how we should practice the deity. When the deity appears in your mind, it appears, but it is also empty. It is not truly substantially actually there. So that is actually the best way of practicing the generation stage. Many times when I meditate, I get so revitalized, that I can't sleep. Should I not meditate before bed? Even as I do Vajrasattva practice at the end of the day and 21 taras before sleep, it energizes me, and sometimes I go for days, months, years with not too much sleep. I seem to be able to function, but my husband is concerned that I don't sleep enough. Is it okay not to sleep very much, maybe 3 to 4 hours a night? Gom gyabe gabla, tiripe kam ngumanang kam thangbo chagarwa, supotipe kuyangbo thangbo chagare, nima kopa, thang chig meba, kam thangbo tina chagados, tini yang nit ku tukumendo, niku gona yang niku tukumendo, tini nga benanga manya gongla nya renka nga gom gyagiyus, tini nga niku tukumendo, chichina nga nya renka gom gyayayus amari, benanga dorsem gom na yang yana Germany shutsa Germany chik melam di konda töngi yusarwa di nyaren ka töngi tini ina niku tugumendo ti dönsatu tini pe starboard chagre nima kupa chagre tini tsamsan la nima khashe tsamsan la dawa lo khashe shida niku gogumendo cheta nga kanga shida yo amare ina yang ngarang choka de kose semtra yore nga chunya nima kona teni ni shida ma khona jigi rebe bena chen re chuchin som shi ni khona anyong dag rebe
같이 용나 추도 니질 이거 추도 많이 이거래 돼. 니 뭐는 오한 돌이 돼 봤잖아. 홍치나 니 그거를 이렇게 싸고 그는 이 그거 말이지. 이 데라 고나 쇼동 거래. 로그 쇼동 약하 이 지부지 대타 코고래. 그러지만 참들이 막 혼는 내 밤에가 차그래. 이막 혼는 탕체야 매가 차그래. 니 당만이 세반매가 tantan 니 송, 니 컵들이 하고들이 니 차그래. 이제 약수해.
So at the very least, you should definitely sleep 4 to 5 hours a night. And if you can't sleep, for example, if the mind is very clear, you can't sleep, then, for example, you can practice the Omahung Vajra recitation, and that should help you also sleep. And also in the evening, you can drink some sheep yogurt, and that also will help you sleep. So you definitely have to sleep. Later, if you really are in a retreat, then it is okay to sleep a bit less, and actually then you also don't feel tired. And finally, there is no more difference between sleeping or not sleeping. So then, for example, actually you are sleeping, your body is actually sleeping, but you still know, you have complete awareness, there's complete awareness at that time. So that is the final, the best sort of practice. When doing calm abiding meditation, is it better to visualize or not visualize? If it is the former, do you recommend visualizing Hung at the navel? Should the color of the Hung syllable be red? So shine gombe kabla, tingan so mikpa gomna gagari, mikpa magomna gagari. Tini kisi mikpa gomna gana, tini pena teva la Hung gomna ti yakshirves, tini Hung ti kato de la marpo gogurve.
먹바 고무고무고 선 내면에 제발이 선면에는 먹바 고무고래 내는 먹바 고무고 말이야 내나들이 내버감이 선 내바산 좋아하니 제발 가래 선 남도 샤와는 저지 내들 남도 매바 선 내. 근데 저 남도 샤와도 쳐달랍나지 좋아하더니 양철랍냐 이 미를 남도 가르쳐는 미를 어떤 좋아해 좋아하는 남도 가서 렉송 뒤에 빠데 내저 렉섬데 되는 거 같은 요래 내가 좋아를 가서 찍어야지 그도 싸우는 말이나 들이 남도나 내가 매가 들이 자꾸 지금 막 가야 뭐 겁네 들이 남도 모시기 시바티랑 야 저거 요래 때 맞기 봐대 타마르 시바 맞기 봐대 시바되나 남도 모시기 시바대 때 맞기 봐되나 남도 지선만 하고 봐 zanto meto longmatin이나 양 파템바 메가 차로 싸워 메가 차로 요래 디강나 마송와 섬 싸워 요라 되는 또 장이 가리나 파야야 리센데 남칸한지랑 이거 사람 탐실 찹대와나지 자고요 선 선아야메바 낭나메바 반랑메바 이렇게 말해봤더니 선 남칸한지 바 찹대 디디 강만나는 미참아 찹대와나니 자연구요 띠감이 다시 가리나지 똑똑메가 띵하나 되고 그래지 홍카도 소소 장항샤나 마고곰 사와샤나 까보곰 깔거나 저거에 네나 홍마곰나 저거에 저땅 우람 탐색감이 대와라 홍대 곰네 완전히 시내고박감이 직접 마곰나 미쳐도 제조래.
So whether or not you need a visualization in your meditation depends on whether or not your mind is able to abide still. So if the mind is not able to abide still, if there's many thoughts in the mind, then you need to rely on visualization, a focal object. And if the mind is able to abide still, then you do not need visualization. So when the mind is still, then you recognize whatever arises in the mind. You see when the mind is, how the mind is when it is abiding still, and how it is when thoughts move through the mind. And when you look at the thoughts, then the thoughts are like waves on the water. They come and then they go again. So it is then enough to just recognize that, the absence or presence of thoughts in the mind. And so then finally, by habituating that, you recognize that the mind that is still without thoughts, and the mind that is thinking, and then the awareness that recognizes those states are all the same mind actually. If you do not get involved in whatever arises, if you don't follow whatever arises, if you just let the thoughts be, then also they will not affect you. And then in that case, you don't need any visualization. Then you can just remain in a very natural state that just recognizes whenever a thought arises. So that is the natural, unaltered, unchanged state of the original state of the mind, the ordinary normal consciousness. And you just abide within that state naturally and recognize when thoughts arise, and when they arise, you don't follow them. So in general, we say that there is three types of state of mind. There is either there's positive thoughts or negative thoughts or neutral thoughts. And the neutral thoughts are more a state of unmindfulness, of unclarity. So that is also not a desirable state, because we need to develop clarity. And clarity is to recognize whatever thoughts arise and then just let them be. And then just rest within the mind itself and see how it pervades like space. And space pervades everywhere. There is no outer and no inner. It's without outer and inner, pervades everywhere. So the mind is nowhere outside, there's no inside, there's no in between. For example, here in this building, the feeling becomes just like you pervade all the people, all the beings in this building. You just pervade everything. So then you just don't investigate it, you don't think about it, you just abide naturally, and then you don't need a visualization. And so regarding the Hong, the color also doesn't really matter, but for example, if you feel very cold, you can visualize it red, or when you feel hot, you can visualize it white. Or in all the activities, in whatever you do, you focus just at the navel, and to support that, we visualize a Hong at the navel. So it is just a method for the mind to not wander, for the mind to abide still. So during the shamatha practice, what is most important is to develop this quality of still abiding. And in that case, you do not need any special visualization if the mind abides in such a still state. And then 4, is it 4 perfect questions? There's 4 questions, okay. What were we before we were born? Where were we before we were born? How was it we were born? Why were we born? Divashi yore. Chiktim nganso givati maleng ngun lara. Givati maleng ngun la nganso kararis. Teni nganso givati maleng ngun la nganso kawa yu. Kawa dora. Semdira. Teni giva maleng ngun la kanda doktim. Teni karachina nganso giva leng yore. Giva leng kumchen.
Giva maleng kong di ngi giva chu kare da chu giva kare shi da chang vi jibo do giva hama sawa da ji ge ge ma de ta ti ni sawa le ni da chu mi la yore giva kare kana ni chu ja la ta tan do cha yore 대외는 되니 랑기 물리는 뭐죠 토트 사마다 hingel이 되니 토로리 되니 노차기네 뒤박차를 되니 지와하마 박차들 되니 파망 날라쇼 조지와 랑거레스 노차를 되니 스버디와를 힘바요 베들이 양달 대형 사마다 hingel이 되니 좀 물리는 뭐죠 토로레스.
So what you were before you took this birth. It is basically what you did to take this birth. Actually, is that now you have a fortunate birth. You're a precious human being. So that is the result of having done things with a mind of love and compassion, having done things with body and speech. But still, there was a mind of attachment, of desire. So due to this imprint, you have entered the womb of your mother and have taken birth here. So because you have developed some love and compassion in your mind, but also at the same time because there still is an attachment to the pleasures of this samsaric existence, as a result of these qualities, you have taken birth as a precious human being. With the thoughts of benefiting for all sentient beings, we meditate. How can we benefit all sentient beings prior to dedicating the merit to all sentient beings? How does one person's action through meditating benefit all sentient beings? 당아서 다 샘첸라 팽공어서 디 군롱 여러와 이나디 따까 삼바장 남도다 버라 드니 군롱 텔라테나 디 시샤네 어서 검기하게 여러와 담봉아디 검경아 샘첸 탐제 팽바기 체등아 검기하기 예스 군롱지 여러와 땡어서 검기합 드니 디 검기합에 갑랑 어서 샘첸라 다동어서 ngoyo 말와 검기하기 개바디 다동 ngoyo 말와 담보 군롱 딜레로 드니 검기야 그래 다동 ngobal라 랩이요 말에 디 갑랑 어서 샘첸라 칸데스 팽기리 검기야 치폴라테네 베나 미치기 타카스 검기야나 드니 샘첸 셴달라디 펜도 칸데 용그리
샘지 진다가 샘다 소소고 샘디 예측바에 봐 하고 그래 또 예측바에 난디지네 저도 샘지 탐지 샘디 장초 침보다 있나 그리고 소소도 나디가 잡지는 차롱으로 차대요 그래서 그 삼반hin제 때 다지는 되는 차롱도 효용을 그래서 이 군나 잡아다가 또 중hin제 저점 지나 때에서 생기 탐지 잡려고요 그래 다고 생각하는 주발은 저도요 그래 생기 탐지 나디도 셔터고요 그래 그는 차롱 쪽에 달라고는 되는지 나디데 효용을 그래 나디 생각 되냐면 되는 레다 박차 탐지 랑기 닝게치 종르티네 데데다 팽기오레스 데르다고 삼바등에지도 다음 무슨 삼고도 하고 거래 생기 탐지 판마마디와 직장 메와 때 하고는 오 만남카다 잡을 생기 탐지 삼네 만남카다 잡을 생기 탐지 삼데 판마마디와 타마마리 삼 갑드니지 당보심 삼바가 차병 거래 드니 다다시지 동해 통로티는 오티 동해를 잘상 때 동해에 매와 동탐나서 뭐 띵띵지 대인이를 지내더니甚至 탐제 팽기요래 팽기 딱 가려나 차당시 매라 hingi 오늘 딱 봐라 맞이 종을 되게요라 이 사바다 hingi를 되게요래 사바다 hingi는 거든 로그래
So for that, you first need to understand that the mind of all sentient beings and your own mind are a single, has a single basis. So we are connected to the mind of all sentient beings, and this is how we pervade them. And so then sentient beings, however, grasp at a self. So although the mind of all beings is like this single basis, like a vast ocean, water, the mind of beings is like blocks of ice on that water. And that is the ice of self-grasping. So if you give rise to love and compassion for them, because our minds are one, it can melt their ice somewhat. It is that love is the power that is all-pervasive. It is an all-pervasive power. So depending on how strong your compassion, you're able to benefit sentient beings to that extent. The stronger your compassion, the more sentient beings, the greater will be your capacity to pervade sentient beings and also to make offerings to the Buddhas in the Pure Lands. And it is because the mind of compassion is like warmth, and when it reaches beings through this all-pervasive nature, then the warmth can melt the ice block of self-grasping. And together with the self-grasping, the karmas and imprints of sentient beings also melt. So how strong, how powerful our ability to benefit them depends on how our ability to cultivate compassion, how strong is our compassion. So in the beginning we cultivate a samadhi of love. And for that we first must contemplate, we really understand. We think that all sentient beings without exception have been my parents. So when that is clear in your mind and you really see all beings as your mother, then at that moment love pervades all beings. And then when you see that those beings actually all suffer, then naturally you will want to separate them, free them from suffering. And that is called compassion. And that is how you benefit beings. And a sign that you actually are affecting beings in this way is, for example, if you have compassion for your cat or your dog, then they want to stay with you because you love them. If you do not love them, then they will also go elsewhere.
재미 이제는 고아야 뭐 차지 뭐지가 오만의 뱀에 홍제요나 따고 생각 참아는 줘봐 룩생기 탐지를 드니 잡토고 요래 만을 적게 잡토고 요래.
So somebody who really understands the four immeasurables, such a person only recites a single Om Mani Padme Hum mantra. Through the power of their compassion, at that time of reciting this one mantra, their mind makes offerings to all the Pure Lands and also pervades all the sentient beings of the 6 realms. If there is no self, who will be the one that becomes the Buddha? Tanda di dag mena rawa da yomari da mena teni da mom bala miti sangyena da mena teni sangyengchen di sori sang soki gere da mena
다 매와 뛰는 사지에 빼는 빼 대조 잠치는 차롬 찌셔서 잠치 쳐대 찌빠 차로 잡초를 상기들 다 니미요 말이 니미베 시디 잡초 요러한테 잡초 쳐들 니미가 대다고 하고래 남카 요리 남카는 니요 말아 사지 요랑 상디는 니디디 상로 그래 니디 상로 제디 샘 남카다 왜자 샘도 남카 체미는 죽을 놈도 저 봐야지 추적 것들 다요 말이 왜 라이시바 탐지를 카카요 말이지 라고 사야만 보여 있대요. 라고 찍다. 라고 사야 찍니 툭 찍바래지.
When there is no more self, actually that is enlightenment. So when the self, this perception of a self has disappeared, and then we attain enlightenment. For example, the enlightened mind of all the Buddhas is like the ocean, and sentient beings are like many ice blocks floating on that ocean. And when one of those ice blocks melts, then it merges to be one with the ocean. It becomes one. So it doesn't disappear, it's still there, but it is indistinguishable from the ocean. So that is like the non-dual wisdom. So the ocean is still there, just there is no division in the water, it's only one water. Or, for example, the sky is there, but there is no division in space, there's only one space. So enlightenment, the term in Tibetan is Sangye, and Sang means to clear away. What is cleared away is dualistic grasping. And Gye means like expansive, extensive, and that is the mind then pervades extensive, vast like space. It is said when you realize that there's no difference between the mind and space, you have actualized the Dharmakaya. The Dharmakaya, within the Dharmakaya, there is no self. For example, the wisdom deities, although there are millions of different forms of different wisdom deities, they still are all the same. So therefore, the form of a million deities, or the mind of a million deities, and the mind of a single deity is a single one. I have experienced fear of higher energies when practicing meditation, and this fear makes me do stupidly a little good meditation. Stupidly good meditation. How do I overcome this fear of higher energies and change this habit of I can't do this? Pachatil gom gyape kapla tini di jade avola kyusarwa de sanata ta khanagare sume ta tin de sume mima yin khare ina ra tela shege tok tela chinan ge tok gom gyape kapla tini yong tok ta chinan ni tanan ji ge tok tini tela tenem nga gom shira gyap thogamen do tela kyusare tente mendo tela tena gomshira gyagi me tini ti dorduna ti jingnang di mevasa khane go sare tini nga sem poba ya mare ta nga ti gom gya thopsa mare ta ti kan ta sem show ta khane ge gore ta ti tana yan khane mevasa gore
der tambo ye damna kong gore zo meba de danji yoba tamje tini zo mena ko to danji yobe tini controla 정상도 동의 요리 제시바데 종문에 매내야 tini chērāngā jīngāng chētā dāngdīngi tērā samshīchī shokchā kore yendu samshīchī chibochī na tini jīngāng tī chōngdū rōgu yore dāngdī hāmbōni jīngāng tērā rī tini tērā yendu yedāmbā shā yāngdō gōm na tini yedāmbā shā tāngō tsēwā tēpā chēmbō jē tini yedāmbā shā tī jēyā mēwā chāna tini tārī rī tērāng tī sēngkī dāngdīngi sōgu yore dāngdī yōna mānā nāng sōna ngāndī jīgre wōng sāng tē sīng yōgu yore mālaṃ gōni jīng tē dāngdī khuāng kā sōgu yore sāmbā tāng jī jī yōna tsāmbā hlārī tē rē tāp jī hlārī jī tē yore tsāmbā chōpō chā tē yore sāng shī jī tāp jī tāpa shī khāng chā rō yore dāngdī jī tāp jī rē tē rē tāng jōmbō chā ngō yore rē shī bā tē rē sēng jī tātā mī jī nā 같이 상보는 드림바요래 같이 록반 드림바데 다디 촉철이 세당가 차도 저거 약고지는 저거 록반 드림바데 저거 누포땅 세진 핀도 우리 저거 누포땅 같이 작업을 야지 땅을 같이 망조고요래 뒤에 탑지 샤랭아 되나 이 고런 드 샘지데 근데 고도 마마마마 다사 드리랑 로망고르더니 다디 용고 세당 차도 좀 맞아가 봤더니 동해 망보 뇽들이 양쪽 탑탑 사고 고도 관리 탈거 요래 제시 봐 단지 제 센터다 차도 인다지 제 로 차도 요래
So for that you should meditate on the Yidam deity and also understand that this being is a formless being, this higher energy. So it's like a formless being that has a self. It grasps at a self, and because they have a self, they also have fear and they also suffer. So then this is what we often call like an evil spirit and so on. And then the fear of this fear is self-grasping. So when there is self-grasping, then naturally we are afraid. So therefore, you must make a greater effort to develop love and compassion. And the stronger your compassion, the lesser will be your fear, because fear and self-grasping are actually equivalent. And so you should visualize the Yidam deity again and again, the deity that you love and are devoted to, until you never forget about the deity. And when you reach that point, then actually all the demons and these evil spirits transform. And then actually you recognize that the evil spirit is actually something that is only created by one's own mind, the self-grasping, the fearful self-grasping of one's own mind. For example, if you go into the dark, if you're afraid of the dark because you grasp at a self, you are afraid, you think something is going to come when it's dark and so on. And then, for example, you have nightmares and bad dreams. And all of that actually is created by your own self-grasping. So the fear, all fear comes from one's own self-grasping. And so therefore, when you practice the deity and cultivate love and compassion, then all those demons and those evil spirits transform into the deity. They all become a friend. Everything becomes a pure land. But when there is self-grasping, then everything appears as this demon, this spirit. And so an evil spirit is a mind that is a competitive mind, but it is like a corrupt form of competitiveness, because there is also a good form of competitiveness, but the corrupt form of competitiveness is when self-grasping is too strong, that with a mind of anger and jealousy, they undermine the good, beneficial work of others. For example, some want to benefit their country, and then others undermine and they throw bombs and so on. And so when one then dies with that corrupt intention, then one will go down to miserable existences further and further for many years and lifetimes. And until the self-grasping and these afflictions of anger and jealousy and so on come to an end, one will experience suffering. But then gradually, slowly, also those beings can become liberated. So we need to understand that the nature of these kind of beings is just a corrupt form of, a corrupt intention, a corrupt form of attachment.
라탐지 상촉심거랑 조다가 차대요레지 제탐지 단디는 뉴모바라도 차롬다고 차대요레 이 소소 상촉심 라티르 디도빈 차롬데 쇼도 동는 제요 말이지 로버는 남도 담마도
So all the deities are a manifestation of bodhicitta, and they are like the heat or the warmth, and the evil spirit is like a block of ice due to self-grasping. And therefore, if you think of the deity, this has the power to melt that ice block of self-grasping. And then ultimately, in reality, there is no real evil spirit, no demon. It is all a creation of one's own mind. When I practice on my Hung, every time I let my mind focus on the Hung at the navel, then very spontaneously I also have the visualization of the subtle energy entering my subtle central channel. The central channel appears clearly in my mind. So at that moment, how should I proceed? Do I continue to let the subtle energy enter the central channel and let the image of the central channel remain, or what should I do? Oma hung gombe gablam, Oma hung khatu gomna, then sem de tevala hum gom gyus. Then ti gablam, then lung tawo chik, cha Oma nalan drogedos. Then ti gabla, cha Oma de be sabo dawa nangedok, tongedok, sem dawa tongedok, cha Oma dira. Then ti gabla khare chigo res, that ti parto da lep song. Then dana khare chigo re, lung tawo di cha Oma nala drotsa tu. Then ti nala takas di go re, yana khare chigo re.
롬 차오지 송디 딩강이들이 파 곰자유고 강에 교도 뭐 동네 대들이 죽벌을 하기 저 잡이온 거요래 딩강나더니 다시니 하통곰 신의 곰들이 곰자 교도 좀 동네 내고래.
So when the subtle energies, the winds, have entered into the central channel, then actually all you need to do is meditate. You don't have to, don't wonder about it. Don't follow this thought what to do and so on. And when the winds enter the central channel, your body is naturally pervaded by warmth, and then you only need to continue to meditate, resting in shamatha and vipassana without thinking about that state, without getting mentally involved in it.
That's what you So all of these are visualizations, but the main point actually of all these visualizations and different stages of meditation is actually to meditate in order to abide calmly still. So the visualization is only a method for the mind to abide still. But what is most important is actually for the mind to abide in meditation. So when the mind abides in the state that is clear and empty, then that is most important. The visualizations are actually secondary, but most important is the still abiding state of meditation. Yeah, that what do Sanji Linjagens to a lambo, you know. Oh, yeah. No, we're going to page 35. I pray to the glorious Lama, master of the four Buddhas, bodies, grown giver of the entire Rinpoche, leader of sentient beings, teacher of the ultimate path, Lord of compassion, Realm of Buddha, fearless of kindness, incomparable teacher Vajradhara, hear my prayer, great Gongpa. I pray to you, Lord, uphold me with compassion, empower me with the blessings, do to attainment, bestow them no. Spontaneously establish the true benefits, here bestow the fruits. The precious Buddha is the supreme teacher. The precious Dharma is the supreme protector. The precious Sangha is the supreme guide. To these three givers, the object of refuge, I make this offering of food. These were prepared delightful food with 100 tastes. I offer with faith to Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Through this may all living beings enjoy the rich food of their meditation. Be saying food as medicine. I will take of it without attainment or aversion. It shall not serve to increase my pride. Page 38. Emaho, in the center is the marvelous Buddha Amitabha of boundless light. On the right side is the Lord of great compassion, and on the left is Vajrapane, the Lord of powerful means. All are surrounded by limitless Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Immeasurable peace and happiness is the blissful pure lane of Devachin. When I and all beings pass from samsara, May we be born without taking samsaric rebirth. May we have the blessing of meeting Amitabha face to face. By the power and the blessing of the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas of the 10 directions, may we attain this aspiration without hindrance. Tiyata Pinzandaya Awa Bodhanaya Soha once Tibetan. Ema Om Zara Sanje Nawa Taye Daye Sujo Tuje Chembodang Yon de Zemban de Jin Don La Sanje San Zemba Min Kur Ji Kur De Jing Om Zar Ba De Me Ba Ye De Wa Jin Ye Za Ve Yin Gam De Da Yin De Ne Zen Bu Ju Ma Da Jie Wa Yin Je Bor Moi Ju Bai Ru De Re Je Ne Na De Yar Don Yo De Ge Dai Ge Mo Lan Da Ba Ne Ye Je San Je San Se Dam Je Je Ge Me De Bar Sin Je Lab De So Tiya Da Ben Zan Je Ya Awang Bodha Na Ye Zo. Page 40. Bodhicitta, the excellent and the precious mind, where is unborn may it arise, where is born may it no decline, but ever increase higher and higher. Sanjo Semjo Rinpoche Ma Je Bang Je Jo Je Je Bai Nyam Bai Me Bai Yang Gong Ne Gong De Be Wai Yu.
알베르산 같은 그 가와성보도 산이더니 땅고서 기와처럼 망보고 따블라마더니 채탕을 보지 산이 100회원 정장부 100회원이 하장 가와성보리 따블라마도 쏘아 타는 거리 남기 인증 미주 산이 남탕나 어디니 쏘아를 또 초조고 치는 또 로마 고마우는 로마한테 팬나더니 그래서 좀 가지고 쪼다다 temba데 콩면을 좀 가지고 얼마리 내가 차차에 이 콩을 단 좀 가지고 지금 맹탕 라데만 콩까지 리딩 화장까지 쳐버리 이런 것서 산이 화장가 화장버리.
Also, tomorrow we are really very fortunate because His Holiness Chezang Rinpoche is coming tomorrow, arriving tomorrow. And His Holiness Chezang Rinpoche actually has been my root guru of many lifetimes that I haven't had the fortune of meeting for a while. And so therefore I want to go to receive him tomorrow, welcome him at the airport when he arrives. So also I invite you, encourage you to join me there, to come to the airport, to welcome His Holiness Chezang Rinpoche. And His Holiness Chezang Rinpoche really is is the holder of this lineage, the Drikung Kagyu lineage, and it is really due to him actually that this lineage actually still exists. Without him, without his work to sustain the lineage, actually the lineage would have been lost already. So it is really due to him that we still have the fortune of having this lineage, the Drikung Kagyu lineage. So we are all very fortunate that, to be able to receive him tomorrow.
Om mani padme hum, mani padme hum, Om mani padme hum, Om mani padme hum, Om mani padme hum, mani padme hum, mani padme hum. Mani padme hum, 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 mani padme hum. Om mani padme hum, mani padme hum. I have one announcement. So today Rinpoche afternoon teaching, he talked about curriculum. So I want to introduce curriculum. Curriculum is the best on this book. It's online course. So we have all these different sections in the online. So like example here, say how to meditate on the 4 thoughts. So we have online in the 4 thoughts. So they all has details of how long you need to do meditation. You can download in there. Also there has some teachings. You can listening. And also the online has you can ask questions, the discussion section. So you can ask questions. It's a question is we have some groups together. They're going to give you answer. If they cannot give answer, they come to me. So I try to give answer. If some answers I cannot give, like special, some experiencing, meditation, something, let's go to Rinpoche. So he's going to give the answers. So this is the online course based on this book. You go to online, so it's a how to say www, right? www.gardromacourse.com. So then in there, you go there, you can see, and then there has you need to enjoy there, you know, you sign up, yes, sign up there. So then they send you 40 hours before, 40 hours, within 40 hours, they send you username and password. So then you can go into you get username and password, you can go in. So this is a 1-year course. So this based on all these meditation stages in there. Right now you get teachings here, so you go home, you don't have a homework, right? So this is your homework, okay? You go home and you can, sign up this, and then you can meditation at your home. So any questions you can write there, you can ask question online. So then we're going to give you answer. If you don't have a question, it's okay. You have a question also okay. So the depending question, not questions going to directly to Rinpoche, depending, we're going to choice. So you get answer from the online course. Any questions? Huh? Our website is www.gardromacourse.com. I wrote here, so somebody can copy. Also, we have another something I want to share. So, Himalayans in the West. It is in the iTone. It's you can download in the iTone. So there has all the mantras. Rinpoche he recorded all the mantras in there. You can download from iTone. Himalayas in the West. Do you got? Himalayas in the West. So then this one has first album, second album, like different sections. So has many mantras. Here, first one has green Tara, white Tara, Chinrezek, then Chinrezek, long one, and medicine Buddha, like this, many mantras. Like this. Good, yeah? Okay. This Amitabha. Any question? No question, right? It's good. Thank you.